What's up, guys? It's your boy Josh Showtime, along man. It's Josh Valle. It's the Showtime's Fight Forum. We talk all thing fights. Today, we are going to recap Riyadh season. They had their first ever event in America. All right, so it was in LA. I actually didn't know it was in LA. I thought it was going to be in like Saudi Arabia or something like that until I actually watched the fights and I was like, oh, they here. And I was like, okay, cool. This is really dope. But
I'm laughing. I'm
yeah,
laughing I'm laughing because I thought the same thing. I was like, LA. I was like, oh, I thought this was in Saudi Arabia.
yeah,
Um,
100%
so
threw me for a loop. But
yeah,
yet still, before we get into our conversation, our in-depth discussion, make sure you like, subscribe, comment. As always, follow us on social media. We appreciate all the views and all the support. We're going to continue to keep on dropping this hot fire. And now let's get right into the conversation. Let's get right into it, man. This was headlined by Israel versus Terrence Crawford, a fight that, many people kind of overlooked. And this is not the fight that we're going to start at, but this was a phenomenal card that, to me, was built like a UFC card, where you have multiple contenders and a lot of important people in one card. And honestly, Canelo kind of did that last year as well with his card. And honestly, I'm loving what I'm seeing from these promoters. Normally with boxing, we already know they really can't afford to have star-studded lineups. They can't afford to have these fighters all fight in one card, so they have to spread it out. You'll never see a great card with a Floyd Mayweather because at the end of the day, Floyd ain't paying everybody that much. He wants the money for himself, so he ain't gonna put all the top contenders and people who he know he got to pay millions and millions of dollars. This actually was a fight where there's guys who are either former world champions, aspirations of being a future world champion that is very, very soon unlikely, and then obviously a pound for pound king. You don't really get that. So it was very, 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 to me, highly touted. It wasn't as good as we expected because some people had to pull out, like Virgil Ortiz, and then also Tim Tszyu. He unfortunately had to pull out because of the cut. So like we didn't get the exact matchups exactly because if we would have, then that card would have just been. But either way, it still was a phenomenal card on paper, and I thought it lived up to the hype. What about you?
I thought it lived up to the hype as well, and I think your breakdown of the card itself is exactly how I felt about it. From top to bottom, each fight in its own way could have been a main event in itself,
Absolutely.
right? So, and even starting with the Jared Anderson fight and way before that. So, I thought overall the fights were exactly the fights we wanted to see. Two competitive fighters that are both at a point in their careers where it matters. This fight matters, right? Even with the fights that every fight should matter, but the fights that matter where, oh, if he loses this fight, it's the end of the road for him. Yes, we care about that type of drama, but these type of fights were like, hey, this is Jared Anderson, one of the top or the top USA prospect in the heavyweight division, going up against a top contender. We have Pitbull Cruz going up against Ray Venezuela, and of course Terrence Crawford fighting for legacy. So I think overall card was well constructed. Loved the fact that it was during the day. I think that we do get these fights at night or inside. So what I mean during the day is I mean literally like outside, it's daytime, just like we had with the Anderson fight. So I think overall it was great. Love what the Saudis are doing for boxing. Cool with the performance before the main event. Overall, great show. Well,
I
let me
will
take
say,
that back.
I will say,
The concert grew on me later on, but overall, great performance by the Saudis and Rydis.
by the way, I'm an unapologetic Eminem fan. I'm not one of these social media people who act like he's a terrible rapper and he sucks. I know he's elite, one of the greatest of all time, and he's my favorite rapper ever. And it is what it is. You can hate me, I don't care. You can hate my choice. You just suck at your musical taste. But yet and still, I was not expecting, nor did I actually care to see Eminem perform. One, I'm just not super big on a lot of rap performances to begin with. Outside of like the Kanyes, the Kendricks, a lot of rap performances are just people yelling on stage. So it's not necessarily my forte unless I'm there and I can rap the lyrics myself. So, but yet and still, he also performed like a few of the songs I can't stand. But regardless of that, my only issue is more so the timing. Boxing has the worst pace in any sport. Period. Like no sport has worse pacing than boxing. They will drag their fight out until 2 in the morning when it's not necessary. I just that it will always frustrate me. One thing I love about UFC is that, like, I'll say UFC pay per view, because sometimes they have pacing issues when it's like on ESPN because they have to meet a certain timestamp. But as far as pay per views goes, as soon as the fight is over, boom, boom, recap, a slight recap. All right, promo. All right, we're back to our next fight. Man, and we talked about this earlier. Boxing is just like, okay, we're gonna talk about the pre-fight, then we're gonna talk about the pre-fight, then we're gonna talk about the fight, then we're gonna give our predictions, then we're gonna ask Your Highness or whatever his name is, we're gonna ask him what he feel, and then we're gonna interview. So we're gonna show some more celebrities that ain't got nothing to do with the fight. Let's show Christina Milian real quick. Oh, let's go to Deshaun Jackson real quick. All right, cool. Now we ready for the fight? Cool. We got one more promo to show you. Now we're gonna do the promo. Oh, they're gonna come out. Nah, hold on 1 second. Let's ask Sean Porter what he thinks, but then we're gonna go into it. Sean Porter says what he thinks. Now we're gonna have everybody walk out. Let's do 3 national anthems. Matter of fact, let's put in a 4th one just in case we don't want to exclude everybody. All lives matter. And now we can get into the fight. Brother, come on, man. We don't, like, I care about these fights, but I don't care enough to know everybody blood type. Let's get into the fight. Let's talk about the important stuff for a snippet, concise, and then let's get into the fights, man. If you don't know who's fighting at this point in time, you didn't really care about the fight to begin with. Let's just keep it a stat. So that is what, like, they got to fix that, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. I think the fights were dragged out as well. I think what kept me engaged was the fact that we did have some really exciting fights, and They were just big name fights. So to your point, yes, definitely dragged out. I looked at the clock a few times and I said to myself the same. I was like, wow, that's a little late there. But
I was playing
overall, yeah, I was playing games too in the midst of some fights. So yeah, I mean, I think that it did get dragged out, but we did get some good fights, and couldn't be more thankful to hopefully see it again, like sooner than later. Like three weeks. When's the next Riyadh season? Tell me.
I don't know. Actually, that's a great question. Let's go ahead and look that up. But to your point, though, like, I'm definitely looking forward to it. And here's the thing. A lot of people got so many issues with Saudi Arabia for whatever reason. And I'm not sitting here saying that they're wrong. I'm not saying that they're right. Like, I'm not really into the politics of it. I don't really know much about it outside that most of it is oil money. But yet and still, we have to applaud them for what they're doing to boxing. Like, no joke. Like, they're not saving boxing, because boxing really is not dying. It's not going to die. They're always going to have their core fan base. But they are 1,000% raising the level of boxing. And the main reason why is because they are taking away the excuse. They're literally cutting it out. They're saying, we're going to cut the middleman out. What do you want? Oh, you want this amount of money? All right, cool. Let's get this fight happen. I don't care about, you want 50 million? All right, cool. That's all you had to say. All right, so when are you available to fight? We needed that kind of energy, because once again, that's what the UFC does, which is interesting now that we know that Saudi Arabia and Riyadh, they want to turn into the UFC. They want to buy out all these promotion companies and just have one staple being, which, if they got endless money like everybody say they do, we're good. I'm excited. Boxing is really going to take over, and realistically, it's going to keep stomping a mud hole in MMA, which is it's doing right now. And I'm an MMA fan, obviously. I started off really loving MMA more than I did boxing because I'm a wrestler. But I'm not going to sit here and lie and deny that boxing has been killing MMA, specifically the UFC, for the past year and some change now. And MMA is kind of at an all-time, not going to say all-time low, but they're at a low right now where they need to step it up.
Yeah, I would definitely agree to that there has been a bit of a turn of the tide when it comes to the UFC and boxing promotion, which, in all honesty, I think boxing, I guess, sort of took from UFC, because they're, as you know, for a long period of time, UFC has been known as the best fighting the best. I have to give Dana White his props there. So now I feel like Your Majesty is pretty much doing the same approach, which now I think is putting in the boxers' hands. Hey, we're giving you all the money we can give you. If you're saying no to this fight, everyone's going to know why. And it's not because of the money, because we have the money. So I think this card, this Rite of Season card, was a sign of good things for the boxing community to see, because it's a sign of things to come, right? They have. I don't think this was a one hit wonder card. I think this is, the start of something that we'll have for 30, 40, 50 years. Hey, it's the 50th anniversary of the Rite of Season boxing card, right?
Oh,
Um,
of course it is. Bival versus Better BF. That's the next one.
oh, when is it?
November.
Okay, pools. A pool. Cool. So yeah, there we go. So I think the more we see that, the more we'll tune in. But yeah, I love what we're seeing. It started to worry me a little bit, but now I'm seeing that their best interest is just seeing the best fights.
Yep, and I agree completely. Now, actually, I lied. It's October 12th. But yet and
Even
still, and
better.
that's
Yeah.
also a mega fight that we excited to see. Like I said, right now as promoters, we have no complaints outside of just the structure and the dragging out of boxing. But outside of that, man, they've been killing it, and we need to keep this going. Now, let's get into the fights. We did everything except for talk about the actual fights, and I think that we should start off with we're gonna do four fights in general, because I mean you could talk about a bunch of the fights, but I don't care to talk about Andy Ruiz versus Big Baby. That fight was honestly, with the long drawn out fight, that fight sucked out of all the fights
Yeah.
that especially with the main card. That fight was not fun. It was weird to see him fade the way he did. And it's so it's a bad fight when it's a draw and nobody cares to see the rematch. It's like y'all should
Yeah,
move.
well, let that be like the last fight that you guys have of your career. Oh, hey, remember like 5 years ago you guys did a draw? Oh, you need some money. You need some money. You guys should just
Let's go
fight.
ahead and do it again.
Yeah, this is the only one. Yeah.
Yeah, but let's talk about the fight that was a big upset, a big upset that Sean Porter called, which we got to give respect to people who call it out, but also to a guy who people were saying going to be a future American world champion, had all the tools, this, that, and the third, and that is Jared Anderson versus Bakula. Now, listen, off rap, we didn't do predictions, but off bat, I would have told you I would have picked Jared Anderson. I would have thought that the movement, just that Bakula kind of struggles with is fast feet, good hand speed, and I thought that he would be able to get away from the power, knowing that he's a power puncher. And Jared Anderson is kind of, I ain't gonna say he's punchy, but he's punchable. Like he's gotten clipped a few times, and we've seen it. And also, as I recall, Bakula called him down in the interview, not interview, but their press conference by saying, "Hey, like brother, you got caught by a dude who came in 10 days notice, and you was getting tagged a lot. I don't have to tag you that many times." And we saw exactly that. So first things first, man. I want to know, what was your first reaction when you saw the first round, and then your reaction once the fight ended?
Well, my first reaction was, I'll be honest, a bit heartbreak. I do know Teray Stevenson, who is one of Jared Anderson's assistants on his training staff. So hurt to see Jared Anderson take a hit like that. Not only for Jared Anderson, but Teray, who's been a friend of mine for some time. After that first knockdown in the first round, I couldn't believe it in a second. For a second, I was just like, did that just happen? But the way that Jared Anderson went down, it almost gave you the sense that flash knockdown, he just got hit with a big punch. We didn't understand how heavy of a hitter this boxer was, right? So when he went down the first time and got up, as the commentators and as myself, and as I'm sure you saw too, he was winning about 2 minutes and 50 seconds of that first round,
Yeah, it
right?
was.
He was sticking and moving. He was utilizing his jab, slipping and moving. So I was really impressed with what I saw there. Now, after the first knockdown, I said to myself, okay, hey, champions get knocked down all the time. We
Yeah,
saw Andre Moore get knocked down and he came back up. We've seen so many great champions. So it's just part of it, and it's a 12-round fight. So as the fight wore on, there were so many great opportunities for Jared Anderson, and I think he did capitalize on them. But I think also Buckle was just, woo, reminded me of clobbering time, the thing from Fantastic Four. I just felt like he had that type of power where even if you were to get hit only once or twice in an exchange, that was enough to cause some serious damage.
Yeah.
So, especially if it was a clean shot. Now, there were times where Jerry Anderson did take some punishment and was able to dish back, but I
Yeah.
don't think those were super, super clean like shots, right? But regardless, I thought there were moments and spurts where Jared Anderson proved why he's the number one heavyweight in America. And I just think that he ran into a guy who I would say is probably has been avoidable now we see for a reason, right?
Yeah.
So tough to see that at the end of the fight. Very tough to see that loss as well. But it is good to see that he and his opponent was able to walk off on their own 2 feet, and he was able to put his sentences together after the fight.
You know, the number one thing that I love about this situation is just the fact that it's why you watch boxing. It's unpredictable. You don't know what's gonna happen. Like any sport gets boring when you know the results. Like, okay, we know Jared Anderson is the younger guy. He's the faster, quicker guy. He's highly touted. Everybody has been putting him into this and that category. He loses. Not only he loses, he gets beat down. Like that was a beat down. All right. Jared had some good moments. We all know that. But overall, he got punished, like punished, and the power difference was just that was the story, and it kind of goes to my point of Jared Anderson, for as big as he is, because he's not a small guy, even though he looks small compared to his opponent, it's more of a power issue. The one thing I noticed as soon as Bakula walked out, he was so confident and he was not intimidated at all, but not just by Jared's skill, but by his power. He didn't really respect it. He walked there hands down right in his face. Hit me. He wasn't even blocking any of the body shots until maybe the fourth round. And he was like, all right, I'll start. But even before then, it was like, bro, I have no respect for you and your power. You did all this talking. You just going, all I got to do is touch you. You chinny, and I'm going to prove you chinny. And he did exactly that. It was beautiful to see, man. And what a way to get back into the ranks and get a big fight for yourself. Like, way to put
Yeah,
yourself into it.
yeah. I mean, either way to put yourself into it or way to take yourself out of it again. Like I said, I think there's a lot of people who are going to say, I don't want this guy I don't want to fight him. Like, no way.
You might, but then you might have people who say, I hit harder than Jared. You give me clean shots, because Jared was landing clean shots, not just to the body, but like you said, there'll be times where he would land, like Bakula would land like hard shots to Jared, and he'll take them, he'll stay in the pocket, and he will throw back, and he will land clean. He just wasn't like, it just didn't have anything to it to make him like respected. There's plenty of power punchers out here that say, brother, you do that to me, you going to sleep. Like, I'm going to put you out. So I think that could, like, to your point, some guys that might not have that power say, that's not a favorable matchup. But there's other guys that say, brother, I can hit just as hard as him. I will knock him out.
I don't know. We'll see, because I swear, I don't know about you, but when I was watching this fight, all I could see was, I punch hard. Like, I swear, this is how he was like punching, bro. And it was just like, I mean, I
There'll be
couldn't, I
arm
was like,
punches.
whoa.
There
Huh?
are a lot of those were arm punches, and they still look like, oh,
That's what I'm saying. It was like some weird, like, it was just like, boom, boom, boom. I was like, dude, I can't, like, I was just like, who is this guy, first of all?
yeah.
What's next for him though? Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens for him. I hope the best for him in his career. I do think he's going to be avoided though. I do. I don't.
100%.
I do not see him getting in the ring anytime soon, unless WBC mandates a
Yeah.
fight between him or whoever his belts are. I believe he has the IBO belt now, or WBO belts. So if he climbs up those rankings, we'll see. But I see a lot of ducks in his
Yeah.
future.
And also, shout out to Jared Anderson, man. He took that loss like a G. Like, obviously, he was pissed off, a lot of cussing, a lot of this, that, and the third after the interview. However, he handled it the best way that he could. And honestly, he was very respectful about it. And so at the end of the day, the grand scheme of things is my family, which is always factual to all these athletes. Number one thing is you're going home to your family. You're always a winner to your family. You're doing things that many people in this world can't do. So respect to him, like legit. I know it's heartbreaking to lose like that, but to still do the interview, still be able to give these opponents props after all the trash talking and stuff. He got my respect,
And not
especially
only
for a
that,
younger guy.
yeah, and not only that, but to your point, he's 24, and he this is the first loss of his career, and how many champions in boxing history are have losses on their record, and we think they're some of the greatest fighters we've ever seen, right? So,
You
um,
ask any boxing historian and ask them their top 10 all time, pound for pound. I guarantee you 99% of that list is going to be guys with multiple losses. Not just one, multiple losses.
yeah, I totally agree. So tough to see him take this type of loss in his career. To your point, though, kudos to him to take this fight in his career when many, I don't want to say many, but many would say he didn't have to.
Yeah, 100%. He did it still
But
slow.
then again, but here's the thing. Then again, man, this guy he fought had a loss on his record, 23-1. You know what I'm saying?
And the
Didn't really
guy he
have any.
lost to also put in perspective, the guy that he lost to has only one loss, and that is to the undisputed world champion in Usyk. So it's not like he lost. The loss that he has is to some bum. The guy he lost to is actually an elite fighter as well. So
Mhm.
this guy is very good. Like, and this is one thing we have to understand, man. And I have to as well. I have to call myself out. Some of these guys we haven't heard of, don't know too much about. That don't mean they suck. Like, that don't mean they're not good, bro. Sometimes we're in our American world and we live in our American standards, and we think that because we don't know about them in America, they aren't good. We have to get over that. That doesn't mean anything.
Not only that, but yes, that too. Also, some of these guys we don't know because nobody wants to fight him.
That's also true.
I was like, who is this? What is he doing? I mean, we're talking about Jared Anderson here, okay? We're not talking about a slouch in himself. We're talking about a guy who's been up the rankings, great amateur background, true heavyweight prospect. I mean, I don't think, and this is no disrespect to any fighter, but I don't think that Jared Anderson is one of those fighters that had the record or reputation he had because he was built up. I think he really is a
I agree.
skillful.
I
I
agree.
don't think that he fought a bunch of dummy cans and then ran into a true test. I think he just ran into a true test on his journey of being one of the better boxers in today's game.
I agree. I agree. All right, so let's go ahead and let's move on. Let's dress up the co-main event. Go ahead and tell us about it. Dress it up as much as you can and tell me what you thought about it.
Sure. So we had Pitbull Cruz going against Ray Venezuela, El Rayo. So um, that was a fight that I was anticipating because we all know what Pitbull Cruz can do. And then Ray Venezuela, if you don't really know too much about Rayo, he's a guy who beat Chris Colbert recently, who in a grudge match, sort of a grudge, in a rematch of a fight they had last year. So coming into this, very similar. If you're a casual to the Jared Anderson fight, you know who Pitbull Cruz is, but who is this Rayo guy? Well, he comes on in, and what does he do? Dances around, right? And makes Pitbull just looks what we always thought he was going to look like. Just a battering ram that you just have to dance around to
Yeah.
get the victory. So kudos to Rayo. I definitely have. I knew that this would happen eventually with Pitbull Cruz. I
100%.
just didn't think it was going to happen to El Rayo from El Rayo because me personally, I felt like Pitbull had the power to stop him from moving around. But he's with the Garcia boxing camp. So he's had a lot of training for fighters like this. He's Mexican. He's seen fighters like Pitbull Cruz before, just in sparring. So I feel like, in my humble opinion, although Pitbull Cruz definitely, I think, gave valiant effort. I just think that he ran into what, in my opinion, was going to happen to his career anyways, which was running into a slick boxer who just stayed on the outside, used his advantage on the outside, which Rayo did because he was 5'10 versus Pitbull, who was 5'4, stayed on the outside, did his little dance, and came away with a world championship. So
You know
kudos to
what?
him. But that was my take on the fight.
You know, it's crazy because obviously size difference played a big factor. But when it comes to El Rayo, it's so interesting to me because obviously he was slick. He was able to, box, and everybody like to bring that up. But he also hurt Cruz, which kind of which is what really threw me off because we haven't seen Cruz, at least I haven't, in any of the fights I've seen him rocked like he was rocked. And granted, like he does what he does. When he gets hurt, he still throws punches. That's one thing I have learned. He's gonna go out in the shield, but I ain't seen him rock like he was rocked. And it's crazy that he was able to do, especially fighting somebody like Tank before. But the funny thing is, in this whole situation, is that Shakur Stevenson is going to talk his ish 10 times more now. One, we all know Pitbull denied the fight. We all had our reasons on why he denied the fight, but now we all officially know why he denied the fight. He was going to look like this, probably a little worse. All right? This was not going to be a favorable matchup for him, hence why he honestly ducked the fight. Also, it kind of brings validation to Shakur Stevenson. You want to know why?
I would like to. Yeah, I thought you were going to say Tank, but go ahead.
No, Shakur. You want to know why? Jose has 2 losses. Who are those 2 losses to? Do you know? Chris Colbert.
Yeah, one was Chris Colbert, as I mentioned, was the rematch, and the other one was a KO loss. I forgot
to Edwin De Los Santos.
Yes.
The guy who Shakur whooped. Now, he whooped in a boring match that everybody criticizes him for. And the reason why I say, how is this a win for him? Brother, this is showing that Edwin is a legit dog and that he is somebody that you have to respect and you have to fight a certain way because at the end of the day, he can put your lights out. We just saw, and this isn't to say that hasn't gotten better since getting KO'd by Edwin, because I'm sure he has. He's 25 years old. He is still getting better. That's fair. However, Cruz hit him flush a few times. He didn't go down once. Edwin put him down for the count, round 3. That shows you, and I'm just saying it validates one Shakur's point of, brother, this guy hits different. So I have to respect it by fighting a little different. And then also his next fight, which people still said was boring. I don't think it was boring. You didn't think it was boring. I still don't think it was the most fun fight. It's not more fan friendly. However, it was nowhere near what he did with Edwin. This just, once again, you can say whatever you want, but Jose fought very similar to how Shakur just fought. The only difference is, I'll say, is that Jose had a little bit more oomph in his punches, and I just think that's just a difference in power punching between the both of them.
Wow, that's a great. I love how you segued that to validate Shakur's career, but also just Edwin De Los Santos as well, who a lot of people are struggling to give credit to, but are giving credit to. It's like a fighter. He's like, people don't know what to make of him, right? But to your point, this definitely validates, some rankings here, some fights here when we think about matchups. To your point, this is exactly what was going to happen if Shakur fought Pitbull Cruz anyway. So, for me, I think this just takes a player out of the equation now and has a huge target on Rayo's back, who, no offense, I think he's a great fighter, but I think styles make fights, and I think he just was able to beat Cruz because of the style that he brings to the table, to the ring. But I think if he was to fight Rayo, a Teofimo, I
actually think Tio would struggle with him, actually. And we could talk about that later. The only reason why I'm saying that is because Teo struggles with guys who do not engage. He does not cut the ring off, and he has issues walking people down. And granted, that's not saying that Teo won't win because I think right now I favor him. However, I'm not gonna say that Teo's just automatically gonna whoop him because he struggles with guys that use their feet that don't want to necessarily engage completely, and he just doesn't know how to cut the ring off. He just like to be a showboat and just be in your face, do stupid stuff, and do nothing, and then say, "Oh, I won that fight." You didn't do anything either, buddy. But yet still though, but I will say the biggest loser in this situation, I think the biggest winner was Shakur. Actually, I think the biggest loser is Tank Davis. I think Tank Davis is the biggest loser just because it's now sounding like Shakur is gonna fight Zepeda. It sounds like he's more so going towards that route, and it sounds like Lomachenko is not in the picture at all, and it left Isaac Cruz, and that was the fight that everybody was interested to see because that was a very close fight from Tank. Now Cruz is out the picture. Who else is left for Tank to fight that we care about?
You could say still Cruz because it was a good fight, right? And we know that Tank is a target that can be hit, and even though he's a good slick boxer, and this fight with Rayo does help Tank Davis in a way, it shows. I think that's still in the cards, but if I'm Tank Davis, man, I'm just saying, you know what? I'm signing up for Shakur Stevenson. Where do I sign? And let's just make this fight happen. If I'm Devin Haney, I'm going after Rayo. I think anyone in the 140-pound division needs to target this belt.
Have you seen Haney? Brother, he is not fighting. You think he fight at 140?
I don't know. We'll see. But
that man
fight
at 147.
Maybe, but what I will say is, me personally, I think that the door right now is just kind of like, it's a free-for-all. It's a free-for-all now that 100%. Rayo has the belt.
And it's exciting.
Very similar to Rolly. Very similar to Rolly. Right when Rolly got the belt, everybody was like, oh, we're going back for Rolly, right? Trying to make
but Rolly sucked, though. Jose don't suck. Like, that's different.
Rayo doesn't suck, but it's still like, a Cambosis, right? Like, yeah, this is a good fighter, but, there's levels. And I think with Rayo, he's a good fighter, and he definitely 100% deserved to win this fight. I take nothing away from him. He did what he had to do, stuck to the game plan, and won unanimously. And I can't believe that they had a split decision for him. I was watching it, and I was like, oh, they about to rob this.
Yeah, I thought they was going to rob him, too. I was like,
I can't believe I just watched. I was like,
I didn't think it was that close. Like, come on.
Yeah,
man.
I didn't think it was that close at all. So to see that was tough, but came away with the victory. But there's Rayos, and then like I said, there's Teos, there's Shakurs, there's just a different level of 140, even 135ers that, Rayo, he'll be in a big fight his next fight.
Swag.
Because he'll definitely fight a superstar. That will be my prediction. Rayo fights a superstar next.
Okay, I agree. And he's going to make a lot of money, so congrats to him. Now, this is gone hella over, so we're going to end this one, and then we're going to start another episode, and that one's going to be specifically for the main event, because honestly, I feel like we both got a lot to talk about specifically with that fight as well. There's a lot of storylines, a lot of, should be a rematch, who's next for both, does he need to go down? There's a lot of conversations that we need to have as well, so we want to appreciate you guys. Make sure you give us a follow, like, and comment, and all that good stuff. And, always support the podcast, man. We appreciate it. Anything you want to say before we head out, Josh?
Just make sure you follow us on Twitter at Josh's Fight Forum.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all, man. Thank y'all. Stay blessed.